investigation into singer David has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him.
The story of David and Celeste turned from a weird internet rumor into one of the darkest cases the online world has ever seen. At first, people brushed it off as just another messy situation between a rising artist and a fan. But what federal agents uncovered painted a whole different picture. It started as a digital connection between a teenage boy chasing music dreams and a young girl who happened to idolize him. However, it ended in something straight out of a nightmare. The deeper investigators dug, the more disturbing the timeline became, connecting lyrics, live streams, and missing person reports until it looked as if David had written his own confession in real time. It all began somewhere around late 2021 and early 2022 when David, who was just 16 or 17 at the time, met Celeste online through the game Fortnite. What seemed like an innocent connection was already crossing serious lines. Celeste was only 11 or 12 years old. That alarming age gap quickly caught the attention of both the internet and the authorities, who started watching closely. Then came March 28, 2022, when David dropped a track called Decide. Fans didn't think much of it at first, but federal agents later pointed out lyrics like "Save Your Tears, 7 years," which sounded suspiciously like he was hinting at her age and waiting for her to grow up. The wording was seen as creepy and calculated. Following this, on September 7th, 2022, Celeste's birthday, David released another track titled Romantic. The timing felt too specific to ignore. Investigators flagged this as another sign that his obsession was becoming public.
This album is my life. Like, Withered is my life. Petals of Thorns and Lost Petals are what I wanted my life to be, and then Withered is my life.
By October, Discord chats between the two started circulating online, with messages showing him searching for her in servers, asking, "Is Celeste in here?" while she answered back casually. These messages painted a timeline of inappropriate contact that was impossible to defend. Things really started spiraling in 2023. A Twitch clip surfaced showing David laughing with Celeste while talking about controversial content before panicking and begging her to delete the VID. That one moment had investigators and fans side-eyeing him hard. Then, in February 2024, Celeste's mother officially reported her missing for the first time, right as online users were already calling David out, accusing him of manipulating a 13-year-old and predicting the LAPD would catch up soon. Around that same time, new photos of David and Celeste started popping up, showing they were still together even while she was missing. By spring 2024, the situation got even darker. Celeste disappeared again, returned for a short while, and then vanished completely. Yet, she kept showing up in the background of David's world, backstage at his shows, in Discord chats, and even hinted at in song references. Internet detectives were already on the trail before the federal agents even moved in, with people posting comments like, "Drop the one with the missing girl, Celeste." The internet was piecing together a case faster than the police. But what came next was beyond anything anyone expected. In September 2025, a body was found dismembered and stuffed in the trunk of a Tesla, a car registered directly to David. From there, everything exploded. The federal agents built their timeline and presented it like a slam dunk case. David's manager's house was raided, his record label dropped him immediately, and he went silent online, deleting Reddit posts, locking his Fortnite stats, and disappearing from streams. Every piece of evidence pointed straight to him, and it seemed like the story was over. But that's when the biggest twist hit. His own brother Caleb stepped in and flipped the entire case upside down. Caleb came forward saying the so-called airtight timeline the federal agents built might not be legitimate. According to him, the evidence that everyone thought proved David's guilt could actually show someone set him up. That statement shook the internet to its core. Suddenly, people didn't know who to believe. The same brother who shared stages and songs with David was now publicly questioning the investigation. But then the situation got even messier when rumors started spreading that Caleb was secretly working with the police. Reddit threads exploded accusing Caleb of being a snitch. Some claimed his lyrics lined up with the case, and blurry photos appeared online supposedly showing him with Celeste backstage at one of David's shows. Fans started debating if he had known more all along or if he was just trying to clear his own name before things got worse. The LAPD hasn't confirmed anything officially, but the silence only fueled speculation. Caleb's name became part of the chaos, leaving fans wondering, was he trying to help? Or was he saving himself? People online were split. Some called it betrayal, saying Caleb turned on his family when things got ugly. Others argued he was simply doing what was right, trying to bring justice after seeing things go too far. Either way, one thing was certain. Caleb's move changed the entire dynamic of the case. Suddenly, David wasn't just facing legal trouble, he was facing betrayal from inside his own camp. Investigators reportedly began pulling lyrics, voicemails, and even tattoos as part of the growing pile of evidence. Every small detail of David's life, every song, every photo, was now under a microscope. Still, the internet chaos wouldn't stop. With every post and every rumor, the truth got harder to see. From talk of pregnancy to wild theories about hidden clues in David's songs, social media turned the tragedy into a circus. But through all the noise, one fact remained clear. The world had just witnessed the collapse of a teenage star's empire, twisted up in obsession, betrayal, and possibly something even darker waiting to be uncovered. The internet went wild once Caleb's name got thrown into the mix. Every corner of Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube was suddenly deep diving into his lyrics, hunting for hidden messages, and posting side-by-side comparisons like amateur detectives. Some said his verses contained secret jabs about Celeste, while others believed he was exposing his brother through music without explicitly naming him. One rumor even claimed he was the one who helped police connect key dates and evidence, a move that would label him as the ultimate snitch in hip-hop culture. But while people online debated loyalty versus justice, Caleb stayed quiet, and that silence only made him look guiltier. Then came the storm of misinformation that made the whole case feel like a digital war zone. The first major rumor came from a viral post on X, formerly Twitter, that racked up millions of views overnight. It claimed Celeste had been pregnant when she died, and that infant remains were found near David's property. The post exploded online, getting picked up by blogs and fan pages until it became the headline of the week. People started treating it like fact. Fans were heartbroken, saying this wasn't just a scandal, it was pure horror. But after days of chaos, investigators officially debunked the pregnancy rumor. There were no reports, no forensic confirmation, and no law enforcement sources backing it. It was pure fiction that spread faster than the truth could keep up. Still, the damage was done. The rumor had already painted David as something far darker than anyone imagined. Every thread, every clip, every breakdown made him look more like a villain in his own story. But the false stories didn't stop there. Soon, another narrative started trending about Celeste's aunt, and this one got messy fast. Screenshots surfaced showing her bragging about gaining followers and posting shoutouts while using hashtags related to Celeste's death. Some accused her of seeking attention, while others said she was just trying to cope in her own way. But the optics were bad. The internet doesn't forgive that kind of timing. People started questioning the whole family dynamic, wondering how so many could turn a tragedy into an opportunity for attention. All this chaos made the truth even harder to find. On one side, you had federal agents quietly building a murder case, and on the other, you had millions of online detectives throwing out wild theories, half of which turned out to be fake. It became impossible to separate fact from fiction. But what most people didn't realize was that all that confusion might not be random. Some believed those false leads were part of a bigger cover-up, flooding the internet with noise so the real evidence would get buried. Every fake rumor distracted people from what really mattered, the facts connecting David directly to Celeste's death. And that's where things got sinister. While everyone online argued about rumors, the real evidence was hiding in plain sight inside David's music. Once fans and investigators started dissecting his lyrics, interviews, and even his stage breakdowns, it started feeling less like an artist's creative process and more like a confession written in code. David's interviews suddenly sounded different. He talked about pain, beauty, and saying goodbye. But in hindsight, it all sounded like he was preparing the world for something tragic. In an older magazine interview, David opened up about his strict upbringing. His parents had pulled him out of school to homeschool him in a deeply religious household, keeping him isolated for most of his youth. He said that when he finally got famous and the money started rolling in, he finally felt free. But that new freedom seemed to unlock something darker inside him. People online started connecting that emotional shift to the start of his obsession with Celeste. It was as if he replaced his isolation with her, and she became the center of his entire world. The theory is that between October and January, David may have killed Celeste, either right before or after finishing his last album. When people revisited his lyrics, things got even creepier. One song talked about love being beautiful for a time before fading away, and another referenced ascending to the next era. At first, it sounded poetic, but now fans were hearing it as a goodbye. One interview clip showed David explaining that his album, Withered, was about returning to where I came from, a haunting phrase that hit too close to home after Celeste's body was found. Then came the flower references, one of the darkest clues in this entire case. His project Withered supposedly transitions into a deluxe version called Japanese Lily. Fans later learned that in Japanese culture, the red spider lily symbolizes death, mourning, and the separation between life and death. It blooms right as summer fades into fall, the same period Celeste was last seen alive. Fans couldn't ignore that timing. Was it a coincidence or a chilling message hidden in plain sight? The creepiest part was that Celeste's actual voice was woven into his music in songs like I Never Needed You and So Long Goodbye. You can hear her voice leaving voicemails, crying, apologizing, and even sounding scared. In one, she says, "You're always the one calling my phone. You have to figure out what's going on with you." It painted a picture of a girl trying to pull away from someone who wouldn't let go. That evidence made people believe David wasn't just writing songs, he was documenting his obsession in real time. Then came the SoundCloud track Satan's Pursuit, released late in 2023. In it, he raps, "It kills me slowly day by day. I let Satan pursue me." Fans who once thought it was just dark poetry now wondered if it was a confession about guilt eating him alive. The deeper people dug, the more disturbing the clues got, from his tattoo choices to the breakdowns he had on stage. In April 2025, during a live performance of Afterlife, David broke down crying and couldn't finish the song. Then again, just months later, he had another meltdown while performing the same track. Some said it was grief, others said guilt, but one thing was for sure, those weren't just emotional moments. They looked like breakdowns from a man haunted by something he couldn't hide anymore. Every lyric, every symbol, every tear started to look like part of a puzzle that painted David not as a misunderstood artist, but as a man trapped by his own sins. And whether those clues were intentional or not, they turned his music into the most haunting evidence the case had yet. By the time the lyrics, live streams, and online clues came to light, the case had already grown far beyond David himself. What started as a disturbing relationship between an artist and a fan turned into a full-blown industry scandal, one that had the entire internet asking who else knew what was going on, because there was no way something this big could happen without others in his circle catching on. That's when the spotlight shifted to his management, label, and everyone tied to his brand. And when the federal agents raided the house of Josh Marshall, David's own manager, fans knew the story wasn't over. Authorities said the raid happened just days after Celeste's body was identified. That timing was not random. Investigators believe Josh might have known more than he let on. It didn't help that online detectives were already accusing him of enabling David's behavior, saying he ignored warning signs because the money was flowing. There were even claims that Josh and the label had been warned about Celeste being a missing minor way back in 2024, long before the news ever broke publicly. If that's true, then it means the people managing David didn't just look the other way. They protected him. It gets worse. Fans pointed out that Celeste had been seen backstage at David's concerts, often hanging with his team, using fake IDs, and posting pictures that made it clear she wasn't old enough to be there. Everyone around him could have taken one look and known she was too young. But they kept the show going because David was profitable. A young artist with a loyal fan base, millions of streams, and viral hits that brought in real money. Nobody wanted to risk losing that substantial income. So instead of stopping him, they allegedly let it slide. That's where people started saying this wasn't just one man spiraling, it was an entire system covering it up. After the LAPD searched David's apartment, reports claimed Josh immediately terminated the lease, which fans saw as a red flag. To them, it looked like a cleanup move, as if he were trying to erase evidence before investigators dug too deep. Then, just hours after that, the label cut all ties with David, removing his music from playlists and canceling projects. It was too clean, too fast. The internet called it damage control, accusing them of protecting their brand rather than the truth. It was a public relations escape, a plan disguised as moral distance. Meanwhile, Caleb's situation got even more complicated. Remember, people were already calling him a snitch for possibly cooperating with the police. But others started arguing that Caleb wasn't doing it to betray his brother. He was doing it to save himself. Because if the federal agents were circling the entire camp, his only way out might have been to cooperate. Perhaps he knew things were about to explode and wanted to separate himself before investigators connected him too. Some even believed Caleb had inside information about how the label handled things and might have leaked that to the authorities. Either way, the entire family dynamic turned into chaos. Loyalty was dead, and survival became the only goal. At that point, every theory was on the table. People online speculated that Caleb was secretly feeding information to prosecutors, while others thought he was just trying to clean up his own image. But the irony was wild. The same brother calling out the timeline might have been helping build it. And the craziest part, none of this was officially confirmed. The LAPD never went on record about Caleb cooperating, which only made the rumors stronger. Fans started treating this case like a Netflix series, breaking it down frame by frame, trying to decide who to believe. As the weeks passed, the chaos only deepened. Fans began revisiting old interviews, deleted tweets, and even random background sounds from David's Twitch streams. Some thought they could hear Celeste's voice in the background of certain clips. Others swore there were subliminal messages buried in unreleased demos. The obsession to find the truth turned the internet into a 24-hour investigation board. Everyone wanted to be the first to crack the case, but nobody realized that the deeper they dug, the darker it got. One detail that stuck out most was David's consistent obsession with symbolism, the flower references, the invisible string theory, and the idea of a bond that never breaks even when it's toxic. All of it painted him as a man haunted by a love he couldn't let go of. In one interview, David mentioned that the concept of jong from Korean culture fascinated him, the kind of emotional connection that lasts beyond life and death. Fans started wondering if that's what he thought he had with Celeste. To them, his songs weren't love letters, they were confessions of obsession. The more those clues lined up, the more it seemed like David was leaving breadcrumbs the entire time. From the song release dates, matching key moments in Celeste's life, to lyrics describing her leaving him and him not being able to move on, it all felt like he was documenting his descent into madness. Some even suggested he wanted to get caught, that maybe the guilt was eating him alive so badly he couldn't stop dropping hints. Because who hides evidence in songs, music videos, and live shows unless, deep down, they want someone to find it? But what made this story hit even harder was how quickly the people around David jumped ship once things got real. His label erased him, his manager vanished, his friends unfollowed him, and yet for years they had all profited from the same art they were now running from. That's why fans began calling it not just a crime, but a cover-up by the industry itself, a system that feeds off young talent, turns a blind eye to warning signs, and then acts shocked when it all collapses. By the end of it, the entire David and Celeste case became bigger than music, bigger than fame. It was a reflection of what happens when power, money, and obsession mix with silence. The boy who once made emotional love songs was now a symbol of tragedy, betrayal, and unanswered questions. Because whether you think he was guilty, framed, or completely lost, one thing is undeniable. Every clue, every lyric, and every meltdown told a story that no public relations statement could erase. And for Caleb, the brother caught between loyalty and survival, that story will haunt him forever.